Hello, this is Kevin with Bang It Inc. And today we're going to talk about the Sage 100 and interfacing it with the eTakeoff product. So in previous sessions with the eTakeoff product and the Sage 100, we've actually taken information from eTakeoff as far as linear footages and brought it back into our Sage 100 estimate. So we've talked about setting up a project, doing some linear footages. So in this session, I'm going to just focus on just doing square footages and areas and so forth. So let's get started. So first off, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to bring up our Sage 100, my estimating. And we're going to pick what assembly we want to use. So I'm going to go back up here and I got to unhide, whoops, I don't want to hide one. I need to unhide some columns. And I'm going to do an assembly. So let's go to our list here and look at our assemblies. And I'm just going to take off like a slab, let's say. So I'm going to come down to, that looks like a slab right there for assembly. So an assembly is made up of multiple items. And over here is where I get into my quantity that I need for this particular assembly. And I'm going to go ahead and turn on another column here too while we're here. So that way we can see our extended quantities and so forth. So right now, all my quantities are zero because of, I don't have a quantity for the assembly yet. So this is where I'm going to basically right-hand click. I'm going to tell it that I want to grab an eTakeoff quantity, and that's going to open up eTakeoff. So let's say that I want to just take off this area. So as we go through here, let's say area. And in previous sessions, we've also talked about setting scale and so forth also. So I could basically come around to whatever type of an area I want. And basically, as I'm making points and clicks and so forth, it's just going to follow me along. If I click and hold the mouse button down, so sometimes though I don't have to have the resolution zoomed in so far, maybe I can go ahead and just click and hold, and that will actually bring up a magnification window. So that way I could hit the corners maybe a little bit tighter if there was a particular accuracy that I'm looking for as I'm going through there. So that's basically an example of an area. So if I look at that, that's 4,200 square foot. And let's say that for some reason these are backed out, so maybe I don't need this area. So I'm going to go ahead and tell it that I want to do a disconnected point, or I'm going to hit the letter G. So at this point, I did that first measurement clockwise. Clockwise is basically positive numbers. Counterclockwise will allow me to do a negative number. So I could go off and basically and now over here, my quantity has actually been reduced by that center area. So very powerful. So that way, maybe if I've got a parking lot, I can take off the whole entire parking lot, come back and deduct the different areas within there. And as I, get done with the quantity and so forth, I can basically right-hand click on that quantity, tell it that I want to return to estimating with that quantity. It dropped my quantity right into my Sage 100 takeoff. I can tell it that I want to calculate my quantities and so forth. And that'll go off and do the extension. So there's all my new quantities, all my new dollars extended out for that particular assembly. So very easy to measure in a square footage and bring those numbers right back in. I'm also going to take a little detour and actually just kind of show one other thing here. Let me see if I can find a better image. I don't know if I've got anything in this particular project. Yeah, let's focus on this a moment. So I'm going to zoom in quite a bit, back off just a little bit here. So here I've got kind of an oddball shape. So let's say for some reason I need to know the square footage of this area. So I'm going to grab my bird's eye view, move it down here. And it looks like in this case here, we've got a 10th inch scale. So I'm going to go off to my scale. 1 inch is 10 feet. And move that back up so that way I don't have to zoom in and zoom out very much. So maybe I'll take a look at this one to start with. So there again, I'm going to do this in counterclockwise because I want it to be a positive number. So I could go ahead and click up on area. I could basically, 0.1, 0.2, pretty easy. So, that's where straight lines are fairly easy. So then I'm going to come to the edge of this curve or arc. I'm going to also hit the center of it, and I'm going to hit the end of it. So basically, a curve can be a matter, an arc can be a matter of 3 points. So basically, the beginning, somewhere in the center, and in the end. And if I hit the letter C for curve, it'll basically go off, and then I could go ahead and come back along. So, that's where I've got that one. And if I hit disconnected point, I might come up then to this one here and do something similar. So that way I could say point 1, 2, 3, just being a straight line, somewhere in the center, somewhere off of the end of it, curve it, point, 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 curve it. So now I've got some other quantity. So just another way of doing curvatures or an oddball shape and so forth. The other thing that's pretty handy sometimes is if people get into doing like flooring for different rooms that are rectangles or squares and so forth, I could also do areas with what's called a 2-point rectangle. So a 2-point rectangle would just let me say point 1, point 2, 149 foot, point 1, point 2, some additional. So I could go off and measure, all sorts of different kind of square rectangle type of shapes extremely fast with the eTakeoff product. If I've went back and modified any takeoff, there again, we've kind of talked about this in the first session, but I'm going to go ahead and review this again a little bit. So if I did come back and let's say for some reason I decided that maybe I didn't want the area in this section right in here, I might go ahead and click on this. So that way it's got this green in my focal point for my area. So that 4186 is what I've already taken over to the 100 product. I'm going to say that I want to do some more disconnected points. And I might say from point 1 to point 2, since I got my 2. Whoops. Let's try that again. So I want to turn that off for a moment. There we go. So that way it's deducted that out. And what do we got then? 4143. So same type of things that we had before. So I could come back up, and if I know I had modified it since it was brought over, I could come back in here then, and I can right-hand click on a quantity and actually tell it that I want to update the value. Or I could go up to the top for update takeoff, eTakeoff, and it could update the whole entire estimate. So in this case, I'm just going to update that one quantity. So immediately we see we've got a match of where it's brought that number in. Very quick to measure square footages, bring them right back into your takeoff without going through a bunch of other methods. That concludes today. So if there's anything that I've got questions on, please reach out to our coordination team. That way we could get the right person set up with you and so forth. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can keep up on top on content that we're creating and so forth. Check out our Buildcast for any type of podcast about construction. And also check out our website /webinars-classes to also find out more information about free classes that we're providing. Thank you for your time.